Good afternoon, everyone. It's Lynda here from Banjo's Bead House with our weekly Facebook Live video. Tonight, I'm having a little bit of fun with pearls. It's week 3 of Pearl Month, and I've dubbed it To Knot or Not to Knot. As many of you who've dropped off a pearl repair may have seen me cringe in the shop. That's not my favorite thing to do. As a person who has incredibly tight sewing tension, knotting is up there with me pulling on things for tension, and, you know, it's fun with the hands. Having silk being, driven into hands and nylon driven into hands to get those really tight knots to get it to work beautifully. That said, I do admire knotted pieces. They are absolutely stunning. But as my question states to you, to knot or not to knot is the knotting alternatives. So for those of you who aren't sure what knotting is, no, I'm not demonstrating it today. You may have thought that from the photo, but no. Tonight is more of a discussion around alternatives to knotting and showing you what knotting looks like so that you have a basis of comparison, and some demonstrations on how using other materials to achieve the same look can actually work. So I'm going to tilt the camera down, take you through some knotting examples first, take you through the silk that you can use and the nylon cord you can use for silk as well, just so you're aware of those products, but then have more of a discussion around knotting alternatives, so hence the knot or not to knot comment. So I'm going to tilt you guys down and we'll have a look at some pearls first. Okay, so we'll get you guys spun around, and hello to whoever has joined us. So to knot or not to knot. This is a bracelet I made Mum many, many, many years ago because Mum loves pearls, and you can see one of those knots has popped. The joys of knotting. So you can see here you've got the end 3 pearls. There's a slightly larger knot than what you're seeing on these pearls. Just see if that exposure can drop. There we go, not so shiny. Yeah, white pearls are never a great example. The challenges with knotting is when you've got a larger whole pearl, every now and then it will actually pop the knot. What do I mean by that? It absorbs into the knot. So this is the case of this one where the knot's absorbing in. Not so great. But as I said, that was many, many years ago. My technique has gotten a little bit better. This is more traditional style. Hi, Irene. Thank you for joining us from Brisbane. So this is traditional style where you've got 3 that you cast. I'm going to use a knitting term. 3 you cast on in one way, you do your knot, and then you end off 3 is the traditional way of knotting. The technique for your first 3 and last 3 is similar, and then it's a very different technique where you use the knotting tool, which is this guy, for the middle section. But as I said, I tend to teach that as a one-to-one class. As Sarah, who had a class with me earlier in the week, can testify, it's not as easy as it looks on YouTube, was her comment. And she spent about 3.5 hours in the class with me learning just to make a bracelet this size. So it's not as easy as it looks, and is better if you can sit side by side with someone to actually learn it. In a similar vein to this one, I've had fun breaking from tradition, and this has actually got a black silk in between it, so hence the black magnet rather than a sparkly silver one. So this is the fun thing with the silks. There is 17 colors in the range. There's sizes 0 through 16, so you'll have a thickness to work with many different holes and many different projects. But there's a lot of the color choice allows you so much flexibility to do conventional, where you try and match the silk as best you can, or you go and have a bit of fun and do contrast. That's not really clearly showing up, so you can better see there when it's on my hand, the black knot in between each one. So this is me just having a little bit of fun with color. To give you guys an idea, the silk cord we sell, as we've seen from previous demos, has a needle on one end. It starts at size 0. So this is 0.3 millimeter thick. You then move up 0.5 mil to the size 1. Now I'm showing you Nylon Power and bead cord. They are both the same length at 2 meters. The nylon is very much works exactly the same way as the silk, except it's nylon, so you're not going to be replacing the same way you are with the natural silk as often. From the 1 we go to the 2, which is 0.45 mil, so you've got a little bit thicker, 0.5 mil thick by the time you're at size 3. Size 4, you are at the 0.6 mark. 0.5, sorry, number 5, you're at 0.65 mil mark. Size 6, 0.7 mil mark. This is typically the whole size of most beads you're going to find coming out. So this one's really easy to work with. 0.7, you're looking at a 0.75 mil hole. Number 8 is the 8 mil hole. Again, this is a fairly common size hole. So 6 and 8 are probably your best bet when working with most beads to knot. Size 10, you're looking at 0.9 mil. Size 12, you're at 0.98, so nearly that 1 mil mark for this guy. And these ones don't have diameters that I pulled, and I can't read them on the wall. So you're at 14 and 16. So you can see by the time you go from a 0 to 16, you've got 2 meters of cord, but it's the difference that the thickness makes. You can see we've got a cool variety of different colors there as well. And you can have some fun, as I said, playing around and doing a traditional knot, or you can have some fun doing the different look. So if you don't have somebody near you who can teach you knotting and you don't want to try, but you love the look, well, what can you do? Well, there's a couple of things you can do. So this is 2 pieces that we make up in the shop on a regular basis, and unfortunately my supplier of these beautiful glass rondelles has now made the holes a little bit bigger. So, hi Kelly. So in the past we've actually just used a silver delica to replicate the knot in between this. We've now moved to the size 11 Raquel because of the hole size gap with changing with the way the supplier makes these rondelles. But you can see you get the look of knotting. You get the lovely spacing, the lovely regularity, but you can do it on jewelry wire, so it's so much easier. You don't need to have any extra tools, but you can have the fun of that look. Now, the other reason why I'm bringing to knot as an option is that some of the new pearls, you just can't match the silk. So, launched a little while ago, this is the iridescent Tahitian. The closest silk in the range is this one, which is quite a bit of a color contrast, and to me really doesn't work. So the alternative is if we're looking at a delica. Sorry, I'm just going to find my little triangle tray. I'm going to be picking up delicas all night long. And since I pulled this off the shelf, really don't want to lose any. So you can see here, I'm just going to give you guys an idea. I'm just going to thread on one of the pearls. Now I'm just using a scrap of wire for this, so bear with me. And we're just picking up our little delica. And we might find the other hole, which is always going to be easier. And you can see there, that little silver bead gives you the very traditional style look really, really easily, but it's color blended in. So you're not having that sharp contrast or the weirdness that having, and of course I spilled the delicas. You're not having the weirdness of the dark pearl with that grey. You've actually got a really nice looking kind of contrast in there. So that's one way we can look at it. You've also got things like the rose gold pearls. There isn't really a silk in the range that's going to work for with the rose gold. So there's a couple of options with that. I'm just going to get these out of my way so I can scoop them up when we're not on live. Since, of course, you put anything in front of me and I'm going to knock it over. Okay, so for rose gold pearls, same way as I said with the Tahitian. The silk color option with that really just doesn't work, which is the beige. It just, to me, really doesn't work. And the pale pink, which I didn't pull one off, give me 1 second, I'll grab one. God, I love it when I'm not quite prepared for live as I thought it was. So that's the beige. And this is the light pink. I don't think that kind of goes either. It's just, the color is not quite right. So you can then, and of course this is individual choice whether you feel it's right. I didn't quite like it. So you could play around. This is the Toho galvanized rose gold, and I think that's a much better match when you play around with those guys. So to string that up, and this is literally how, when I'm playing, I will pour out a little bit of the delicas or the pearls, sit them next to each other, have a look, see if I like the color combination. Sometimes you just got to get in and play with your beads. It's also handy to have a little bit of scrap wire or a head pin lying around, that you can do this as well. And then you just do up a little sample run and just have a look at it to go, yes, I like it, no, I don't, you know, and it's a scrap bit of wire that you can reuse, and it's just pearls you can put back. And that would be that one to give a faux knotting look. So you've got a lovely seamless color blend, so you're sticking on trend. You are not trying to match it with the pale pink there, which may or may not work. And it definitely is not going to work with the beige. The beige is definitely going to throw it too brown. So it's one of those things, again, you can go for contrast if you want to go matchy-matchy. Some of the new pearls, again, you're just not finding the silk in the traditional colors that are going to work. For those of you who are out there going, again, why no knot? Well, Mum struggles with knotting. She's got a little bit of carpal tunnel in her hand, and her hands aren't as strong as they used to be. My hand certainly seize up every now and then, and knotting takes a lot of work and a lot of skill to actually work. So there's some days where it's just too hard, and stringing is a lot easier, and this can give you a lot of fun. It is also a great way of using seed beads you've got in your stash, and creating different bits of fun. Now, I've been playing with size 8mm pearls. We can also play, we can look at some size 3mm pearls. So these are nice and tiny. Again, probably picked the wrong color, picking cream for contrast. But we can play with something like the bronze. And so again, we can do that color tone, play with a little bit of opposites. So these are size 15. I'm just trying to get the lid off without spilling, because I only want to grab just a few of these. So you can see we've got a lovely little color contrast. I'm moving that out of the way so I don't spill it, with the size 15s there and the cream, and I'm going to get them off the white so you guys got a chance of seeing. And we might give this a bit of a trim. So 15s, of course, are a lot harder to thread up than the 11s. But it also proves that you can do this with tiny seed beads and tiny pearls. So you can have that fun little contrast look. Again, with tiny little seed beads, tiny little pearls, so you don't have to get in there and knot when you are looking at, you know, using something as skinny as the 0.0 silk. As you can see on the back there, it is really, really fine. So if you're feeling hesitant about knotting something that fine, again, a size 15 seed bead could be your alternative there. So I just had some fun with the cream pearls and the shiny bronze. But of course, it doesn't always have to be about shine. Sometimes it's fun to do a light dark contrast, as we did with the black and the white, but it's also fun to throw out every now and then a matte and shiny contrast as well. So I'm just going to get these back away. So we've got the big bad boys. These are the matte jet in the Miyuki, and they're size 8. And then we can have fun with some big pearls. So these are size 12 whites. And again, this is just about having that contrast between, again, a black and white, so it's a stark contrast, but it is a classic contrast. But it's the difference between shine and non-shine. And that would be Mum's phone going. Someone doesn't know we're on camera. Okay. So it is having a little bit of fun here. Just getting one more on. And that shows you, sorry if that was off screen, not looking up, seeing where my camera is tonight. That shows you the contrast. It's just got that little bit of matteness, so it just takes away from the shine. And again, you can use a size 8 when you're working with the larger pearls. It's a nice contrast compared to where I've knotted with the 10mm pearl and the black knot. So I equally could have done this with a size 8 seed bead or a size 11. So this is just about giving you guys an alternative, so you don't always have to go and do traditional knotting. You can have a little bit of fun. One of my first experiences doing this is I bought some beautiful freshwater pearls when I was in New York many years ago, and it was before I learned how to knot and really didn't have the patience. I tried and tried, gave up knotting them. Since learned, don't learn to knot with freshwater pearls. Learn to knot with something that's consistent in shape and hole size. And I simply put a delica in between them, and it worked. It's an opera length piece, and I still have it and I still love it. But that is it for tonight. Hope you've enjoyed just a little discussion whether around to knot or not to knot. It's something just to get you guys thinking a little bit outside the box. Whether it's contrasting colors, it's giving it a go, or it's having fun working with them in a different way and mixing your seed beads in as a fake knot. So I'll be back next week with week 4 of Pearl Month, something a little bit fun, not a discussion. We'll actually be making a piece next week. So until then, I will see you guys. Have a wonderful crafty week, and I'll see you next week. Bye for now.